this is the area where the seam was made on the pond. And I don't have anything against seams. We do seams quite often in our field, and if they're done correctly, they're pretty much bulletproof. I think the biggest problem that the contractor had right here is this particular rock was set. I looked at some photographs that Christine had taken during the construction of the project. This particular rock was installed and the liner stopped right here. And just behind me to my right, just a couple feet back, is another large stone like this. Now this probably took a machine to set because it's quite big. It's probably 800 to 1,000 pound stone. And there's only 2 foot remaining of liner right here. And what really needs to happen to install this correctly is this complete piece of liner has to be really flat. And typically we would put a diving board or a couple of 2x12s underneath there, something to get a good flat area. And then we bring in the second piece of liner and then we do the seam on that flat area and then we lower the seam down into place. That's really the best way. That's how our team installs seams on the liner. So since he wasn't able to do that because this rock was in place, you couldn't get the bottom of that liner up and flat without having some ripples in it. So I'm sure it was a real challenging seam to do. So if you come in close, I'll show you how they had to patch it in a bunch of different areas because they had to do this seam and then they had to do this seam and they had to do that seam. So it had to be a mess. So come in close and I'll show you some things that I see. So here's one of those breaches that Christine had talked about. I can get 2 fingers back there, and that's not the only one. There's another one down low. I mean, this is a 6-inch seam tape. And I can still feel way back in there. I mean, look how many pieces of patch tape there are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 3 right on top of each other here. 13, 14, 15. I mean, there's 15 pieces of seam tape to make this work. So first of all, this would be 1 piece of seam tape if it was done well. And really this whole pond should have just been 1 piece of liner. Let me explain to you, I have no problems with seams. If you're doing an L-shaped pond, it makes a whole lot of sense to do 2 pieces of liner and put a seam on there. But this is just a long raceway pond. It's 55 feet long. It very easily could have been 1 continuous piece of liner, and then this mess, we wouldn't even be talking about this seam right now. At this point of the inspection, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a garden hose and I'm going to add water behind the liner. And my goal here is to get a little bit of water underneath the pond, underneath the rubber liner, kind of like a water bed. And what this does is it allows me to test to see if water comes from below the liner through the seams, like where the holes are in the seams. And if water comes through there, then it'll give us a good indication that the seam failed or it was successful. Okay, so you see the water I have? This is moving like a water bed. I don't think anyone uses water beds anymore. I had a water bed when I was younger. So now that I'm in here, I'm looking to see if water might come through. See this hole right here? You see where the seam's kind of loose? So I'm just looking around and I'm getting some moisture right here. See this water coming through right here? And I don't have that much water back here. We just ran just a couple gallons of water back there. And you can already see water kind of coming through right here. This is that one breach. And I have some moisture right here as well from this guy. So this is in the very bottom of the pond. Oh, look at that squirt. So this, oh man, see the water squirting out of there? That's downright horrible right there. I mean, this is the very bottom of the pond, and we have water already coming out. I have water on this side as well. You can see it pooling up on the top now. I mean, this is really bothersome because I didn't think any water would come out of this side. because we have a dozen little breaches like this, but I got larger breaches up higher, bigger than this one, and you see how this is squirting out. So I mean, I would say this whole seam, it doesn't have just 1 or 2 leaks. It probably has, you know, several leaks in there. It's just, this is critical mistake right here. You can see the water coming out. Oh, look at that. All right, I'm finished with this one. I'm really upset about this. Since I'm here, we're just gonna continue carrying on with the inspection and see if there's some other things we can learn about this, because this is obviously the source of the leak and it's at the very bottom of the pond. And it couldn't be worse, because when you fill this pond with water, the weight of the water creates pressure and pushes down. So the water is being forced through those holes. Imagine if I filled this pond up and I turned everything off, the pressure from the water would drop in the pond very quickly because you have the weight of the water. So let's say it lost 6 inches of water the first day pressing through there. Now the rest of the pond water is not as strong as it was when it was full, so it starts to slow down a little bit. But you know, the autofill was on this pond. It was keeping the pressure full the whole time. So this was leaking. This is definitely the source of the problem here on the property. But since I'm here, I want to just carry on and see what we can learn down the way. Dale, since the leak was in the bottom of the pond, obviously where we showed you the water coming through the seam, since it was down low, you didn't really see that there was water up around the top because the moisture was going through the bottom, right? So how did you know there was a leak? Did you shut off the autofill one day? What revealed it to you?
Well, we started seeing the soil on top started to get more saturated. And in our concrete, we started seeing wetness showing up in the concrete. So we knew we had a bigger issue than we thought. So that's when I got a soil engineer involved.
Okay, and that's how we determined 106%, is that correct?
Yes, he's the one that come up with the 106%.
Tell us more about that, because the viewers don't understand 106%. How can you get more than 100%?
Well, come on over here, Eric, and let me show you something. You see this hole right here, Eric? Move the plant around.
Yeah.
This was one of the holes that the soil engineer cored, and he cored several on my property. This one in particular, he went deeper than the rest of them.
How deep?
He went 3 foot deep on this one.
Okay.
And in 3 hours after he left, I had 3 inches of water show up in this hole.
Okay, how long ago was that?
That was back in last year sometime. I don't remember the exact date.
Okay.
But it's been quite a few months.
So a few months, okay.
Yes.
And there's water in it now?
Yes, let me show you something. I like to take a measurement of it every now and then to see how deep the hole keeps getting. So I stick the stick in.
You're pushing down?
Yes, I push down to hit solid ground.
Okay.
And then I pull it back up and take a measurement of how deep the hole is now compared to what it used to be.
So it was 3 foot, right?
Yes.
So it's about 3 foot 4 inches before you hit solid ground.
And water is?
There's 2.5, like 2 foot 4, 28 inches of standing water. And the mud is about 9 inches deep. Well, let's say even 6 to 9 inches deep. So this is 106%. I mean, right?
Yeah, the 106%, what the soil engineer is trying to explain is when your soil is only 100%, it's just saturated. But 106, it can no longer hold water, so which you get ponding water. And I have water that is trapped underneath all the concrete and stuff on my property.
Because it can't dry, right? The sun's not getting to it.
Can't get to it, can't evaporate.
Well, I mean, that liner with the holes right in the bottom of the pond, I mean, that's, you weren't seeing the results of water pooling up around the top of the pond because it was leaking at the very bottom.
Right. Until it eventually made it to the top from oversaturation. But now that the pond has been drained, the top of the soil now appears dry, but what's underneath is what matters.
Yeah. Yeah, this is awful. All right, well, thanks for explaining that to us. This is really revealing.
Come here, Eric, and let me show you a little bit of how this water is affecting my concrete.
Ooh, it's elevating right here, yeah.
Yeah.
It's about a ½ inch up.
Yeah, now it's been up higher at times. My driveway is shifting and moving. And a lot of people don't understand the reason the water is so far down here is the elevation of my yard slopes this way.
We're about 30 feet from the pond, as I checked when we walked out here.
Yeah, approximately 30 feet.
Elevation change from there to here is probably maybe 8 to 12 inches probably. So we're sloping away the driveway.
Right.
So since that hole from the soil engineer is 3 foot deep, we're about 2 feet away. I mean, we're about a foot lower than that area right here. So that's showing how the water is trying to shed
Yes.
off the property.
Now, the window guy that I had put the windows in my house, he had laid his windows on the driveway to work. And he knew my driveway was in good condition, or he would have never laid his windows here.
Right.
So he came back one day to just ask some questions about whether or not we liked the windows and get some responses from us. And he noticed our driveway and how bad it was, and some other areas of the concrete around my house.
Yeah, I can see it all the way down the driveway. That's, this whole driveway's gonna have to be pulled out, huh?
Yep. All the concrete that has been damaged will have to be removed. The soil underneath removed and replaced with new soil, and then replace the concrete.
That's awful, man. That's awful. So that's going to conclude our inspection on this pond today. It's pretty telling that some things went wrong here, and I can only hope that the homeowner finds resolution and they decide that they do want a pond again, because it's not normal for us to do a pond's gone wrong and not fix all the problems and put water back into their lives and fish and plants and all that stuff. So it's a hard one for me, because we might not get a chance to repair this and have that customer have that experience. So, you know, I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy. I wouldn't wish this kind of damage on any homeowner. And I'm just thankful that they allowed us to come onto the property and share their experiences with us, so we can help educate the masses on what can happen if you have a leak and it gets ignored. And hopefully the little design flaws that we discussed can be used by contractors and homeowners globally to get it done right the first time. That's it for Ponds Gone Wrong. Until next time, I'm Eric Triplett, the Pond Digger. Thanks for watching.